Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Another quotation, but not from Richard Lovelace. Mother was the one who used to say that, when Norman was just a little boy. But Mother was dead now, and he was still alive. Alive and in a cage. Knowing this, facing up to the truth, proved he was sane. If they'd only realized it, they'd have tried him for murder, found him guilty, sentenced him to a term in prison. Then he'd have been out in a few years, 7 or 8 at the most. Instead, they said he was psychotic. But he wasn't. They were the crazy ones, locking up a sick man for life and letting murderers run free. Norman stood up and walked over to the window. When he pressed close, his range of vision was no longer limited by the bars. Now he could look down on the grounds, sparkling in the bright sunshine of a Sunday afternoon in spring. The bird songs were clearer now, soothing, more melodious. Sun and song in harmony, the music of the spheres. When he'd first come here, there'd been no sunlight and no song, only the blackness and the shrieking. The blackness was inside him, a place where he could hide from reality, and the shrieking was the voice of demons searching him out to threaten and accuse. But Dr. Claiborne found a way to reach him in the darkness, and he'd exorcised the demons. His voice, the voice of sanity, had stilled the shrieking. It had taken a long time for Norman to come out of his hiding place and listen to the voice of reason, the voice that told him he was not his own mother, that he was, how did they say it? His own person. A person who had done harm to others, but never knowingly. So there could be no guilt, no blame. To understand this was to be healed. Accepting it was the cure. And cured he was. No restraint jacket, no padded cell, no sedation. As librarian, he had access to the books he'd always loved, and television opened another window on the world, a window without bars. Life was comfortable here, and he was used to being a loner. But on days like this, he found himself missing the contact with other people. Real flesh and blood people, not characters in books or images on a tube. Aside from Claiborne, doctors and nurses and orderlies were transient presences. And now that he'd completed his task, Dr. Claiborne spent most of his time with other patients. Norman couldn't do that. Now that he was himself again, he couldn't relate to the crazies. Their mumbling, grimacing, gesturing antics disturbed him, and he preferred solitude to their society. That was the one thing Claiborne couldn't change, though he'd certainly tried hard enough. It was Dr. Claiborne who'd urged Norman to participate in the amateur theatrical program here, and for a while it was an interesting challenge. At least he'd felt safe on stage, with the footlights separating him from his audience. Up there he was in control, making them laugh or cry at will. The greatest thrill of all came when he took the lead in Charlie's Aunt, playing the role in drag, playing so well that they cheered and applauded his performance, but all the while knowing that it was just a performance, pretense, make-believe. That was what Dr. Claiborne said afterward, and only then did Norman realize this had all been arranged, a deliberate test of his ability to function. You should be proud of yourself, Claiborne told him. But there was something Claiborne didn't realize, something Norman didn't tell him. The moment of fear that came toward the end, just before the hero's disguise was discovered. The moment when, simpering and swishing and coquetting with tossing curls, Norman lost himself in the part.